So here we are, YouTube part 2 of the trailer for this documentary that is going to be coming out soon enough. It's a shame this COVID-19 started up because we were supposed to be filming at the start of this year. Anyway, here's some more of the trailer.
The reason I started recording things was because when the police first initially came to see me, they told me that they would be in touch with me and keep me informed as to what was going on. And when my case was going to be heard, they would inform me. A full 10 years went past. You've got to remember that people like us, we've lived this all our lives and we've tried to bury it, and at the age of 36 years old we get a knock at the door and it all gets dragged back. All you want to do is try and bury it again and try and forget about it again until you have to think about it. So I waited for 10 years for the police to call me back and they never did. So, because of that, I thought, I'm going to have to record me phoning them up now and try and find out what's gone on, because I'm sick of them telling the lies that I already knew they were doing. I knew at this point that they'd probably just dumped my case, probably not even worked on it, and I was bang on right as well. They hadn't even included it in the court cases that had gone past, even though they said that I would have been included in those court cases. 10 years have gone by since the police have come to see me. So I phoned up the police. They didn't give me satisfactory answers as far as them dealing with my case. They hadn't dealt with my case. I hadn't been included in it. So I then thought, right, I need to get a solicitor on board. The solicitor being David Greenwood. And from there I thought that he would then push the police into bringing criminal convictions. I'm so pleased I've got recordings of these conversations as well, because that was my focus. Little did I know that his focus was only about compensation and not pushing the police into helping with the criminal convictions, rather the compensation side of it. So I'm thinking, how the hell can compensation even be paid if the guys haven't even been done? So he's basically looking for people in there, in the jails, in kids' homes who've been at St Williams, to try and find out if anything happened, so they could get compensation claims going, not criminal cases, compensation claims. So he's basically using us victims to make him money. That's the crack. This is how it's panning out now, but at the time, I really did think this guy was on side with us. But it's important, right, that this guy is now involved in the X-inquiry, the Goddard inquiry, and he's a fucking liar. And how is he involved in that when he's full of shit? As far as I know, I never knew this up until about, I think it was about a year ago, 8 months, a year ago, when somebody had said that there was an inquiry and I could get involved in it. It was the Goddard inquiry, and I needed to go to these solicitors called Howe & Co. So I went to Howe & Co. And they've since done a video a lot like this, but not on how they've dealt with it, but how my childhood have gone in great detail, and including the rape, so I had to go into like great detail into all of that as well, which is quite a book in itself. But I did it, got through it, and I then informed them that this solicitor, David Greenwood, I caught to be lying and deceiving towards me, because he had been in one firm, and then when I was phoning up for an alternative solicitor because they'd completely cocked up my case and were putting it in a group and I wanted to be listened to as an individual, and then 3 months later I got in touch with another solicitor, and he was called David Greenwood. It didn't click or clock, I just didn't get it at the time. I'm not very good at remembering names, I'm not very good at reading and fucking writing. You know, good with faces and things like that. I just didn't clock that he was the same fucking guy working for another company as well. And I took him on board, and I've got recordings of this, of him saying, oh yeah, that last solicitor, he was, you know, yeah, it sounds to me like he was giving you wrong advice and leading you down the garden path a bit. Little did I know it was the same solicitor, and it wasn't until 2 years later when I went back to listen to all the recordings that I realised it probably was the same solicitor. Got my mate involved, he looked it up, tried to find a picture of him working for Switalski's and and a picture of him working for Jordan's, and lo and behold it was the same fucking guy. So he's led us astray, you know, and he's lied to us as well, and he's kidded us on, he's misled us. And this guy is part of the Goddard inquiry. Now I'd informed Howe & Co solicitors that I've got these videos of him. How the hell can he be involved in a government inquiry and be taken to be true in what he says and does when I've got him on video fucking lying? He should be he should be, you know, barred from ever being a solicitor again in his whole life. He should be sued for the amount of cases that he's took on board and how he's led people down garden paths believing him to be doing this when really he's doing that. You know, the guy is unbelievably deceitful, and yet he's part of this government inquiry. And when I told Howe & Co about it, and I've got these videos, and how the hell is he part of this, and I never knew until I went to Howe & Co that he was part of this. He, as our solicitor, never even divulged to us that he was part of the Goddard inquiry. Not once. So he was hiding that fact, that he was working within the Goddard inquiry supposedly with victims, on victims' behalves, and yet here he is, robbing us all, and lying to us, and leading us down garden paths, being deceitful. And the Howe & Co solicitors responded with, you'll have to find another solicitor's firm for that problem. So I went to Citizens Advice, and they helped me put a letter together for the solicitor's firm to make an official complaint. So then once we got that paperwork back, then that was going to be then sent to the Ombudsman, which at this moment in time I haven't actually got help for. But you know, well, the reality is the irritation towards the police is that I've been an irritation towards the police since I left care. So I've got quite an extensive record on police assaults and things like that. So, you know, when any police officer radios my name in, they've instantly got their back up against us. You know, I was a very angry man when I came out of care. Yeah. The reason why I started filming is because of the fact that the police had told me initially when they first come to see me 10 years prior to me releasing my first ever video, was the fact that they would let us know, they would keep us informed as to how the cases had progressed, and they never did any of that. Where my case was going to end up within the whole scope of things, they never did any of that. They didn't even include me, or in my opinion even bring out a true investigation. As I later learned, the police hadn't even properly interviewed me, video interviewed me, so there'd never been a real interview. It was all on notepads, as I learned, you know, 12, 13 years later, that it was all just put on notepads and nothing else. Well, that's what they claimed anyway.
So what did you start filming?
I started filming my first phone call back to the police to ask them what the hell had gone on. In the 10 years I've been baking on it and waiting. And eventually I was like, sod this, no response, I'm going to call the police and I'm going to record this, because people aren't going to believe that 10 years has fucking passed and they've not a single email, phone call or visit from the bastards. You know, and this is now proving in this first video that I ever did how negligent the police force have been towards victims of this fucking nature, you know. Initially the truth machine was all about, well, how can I describe it? Because like a machine, like a mincing machine, you put, and it grinds all the mince up and it creates something at the end of it, you know. So all this mince that's getting banged in the machine all needs to be sorted out and brought into perspective. So my idealism behind the name is that it's a machine, and at the end of it, all you're going to get out of it is sausages, i.e. all you're going to get out of this truth machine is the fucking truth of what's gone on. And my main staple diet, should I say, for the truth machine is video evidence, because videos can't fucking lie. You know? As far as the St Williams stuff, my kids' home stuff, I've released very few in comparison to what I've got. But the reason I've released what I have released is to give people just a taster of the inner depth of how the system works, how it works to their own advantage and not towards the victim's advantage, which is what it's supposed to be in existence for. Once I started realising for the first 2 or 3 videos of the contradictions that they'd been started to make, it was like, obviously I just needed to absolutely video every single conversation ever, you know, be it they come and see me, be it phone calls. I've had a camera standing by 24/7, so I can record absolutely everything, you know, and I have, and I've been doing it for nearly 3 years now. And now I've spent time reflecting back on the videos and then saying, oh, hang on a minute, they're saying this, and then 3 or 5 years later they're saying this, so what the fuck, that's the police. You know, like, for an example, yes, we initially came to see it because we found on the records that something had happened to you. And then 2 years later, or a year later, or whatever, I'll get a phone call on my birthday saying, oh, we're ever so sorry, Andy, there is no records of you ever being in care, apart from the first ever foster parent that you had called the Boots. So, alright then, so, and the notepads from the police, when they first come to see me, they don't know where they are, and they can't recollect, and the stuff that I've told them about isn't in the notepads, and they can't recollect the original police that are now retired, can't recollect what we even talked about at all. I mean, what? You know, and I've got recordings of the police actually saying all this to me, which is essential to prove to the general public how twisted and bent the police are, how much the police themselves are taking part in hiding the sheer scale of what's going down, or what's been going down in the past, and how they're helping the church hide the amount. Earlier on you asked me a question saying how many prosecutions have actually happened to how many's left. I really don't know, but I do know that it's only a small amount compared to what's left. So the system itself has dragged the cases out purposely for people to run out of time, for people to die, so people don't have to be compensated, so cases will never be registered or, you know, be ever put in any records. You know, it's diabolical what's going on there. On my YouTube Truth Machine channel, I first started off trying to get justice for myself, but in order to occupy my mind so it totally wasn't baking, I started, as I always have done, but I've never in the past filmed helping people, you know. And so over the years I've helped a lot of people and made a lot of enemies and a lot of counties with police for standing up to them and video recording them and making them look like the idiots that they've been in the past with certain things, like if you were to look up the Sunny Brow illegal eviction on my YouTube channel, you can clearly see, and this was the build up to them coming and attacking me in my house. You know, it was an illegal eviction going on. The lady had the land rights, so they couldn't move out the garden, so the police played a part alongside the security firm that were employed to watch over the house while she lived in the garden, to fucking harass her constantly. You know, I ended up publishing a video where the armed police went into this lady's daughter's house for having no tax on the car, and took her out of the house, leaving the 2 children screaming and crying. She'd never been in trouble in her life, but the whole plan was to take the daughter away so the grandmother would have to go and look after the kids, which meant that the land was abandoned. You know, and these are the sort of techniques and things where they do it with other people, not just me, you know, and these were the sort of things that I was exposing going on in County Durham, with the police force in County Durham, when I was illegally acting. So I already had the backup, the backs up against the police in Durham, the Durham Police, Durham Constabulary, and Darlington Police, and also Bishop Police, like surrounding villages where there's local bodies were getting involved in it as well. So they were beginning to build up a bit of a hatred, because every time the police turned up at these different protests that I've been organising, they would basically make themselves look like idiots. I would put videos out on YouTube about how the police had been acting, how they're, you know, not responding to any calls off the family when they're under attack, but when the security firm were phoning them up complaining about someone sharpening the knife in the back garden to cut some fucking meat up for Sunday dinner, the police were there in 2 seconds flat. You know, so lots of stories, lots of embarrassments. The day before the police attack at my house, I'd been in Leeds Crown Court, and it was when all the police from the investigation were there. They were all together and all sat around a big table, which I have a video of when I approached them to ask them, what's going on, why haven't you looked into my case, why haven't you brought criminal charges, why haven't you done this, why haven't you done that. Lots and lots of discrepancies as far as the police not doing their job, and their feeble excuse was that the police were frightened of being accused by the general public of trawling, what they call trawling, like throwing a net out and just trying to catch loads of shit. And how they explained it was that they couldn't interview everybody in the kids zone. So I said, well, you don't need to interview everybody in the kids zone. And each unit, there was only between 12 and 15 people in each and every kid unit. So you only have to interview that amount of people. And on top of that, I'd only been in that kids zone for 3 months. So that narrows it down even more to how many kids you'd need to interview, and you haven't even fucking bothered to do that. And then I just got the response off the chief of police, well, it's all over and done with now, it's all too late, it's all this and that. You know, I've got all these videos that I'm hoping people are going to be able to hear as well. And they basically bribed me off. So when the interview went on downstairs with the BBC and the chief of police about what such a fantastic job she'd done, towards the end, and I've got a recording of this as well, at the end of the interview I was just nodding my head in a no fashion, not true, not true. And at the end of the interview she was like, you know how I feel about this, and you know, and I know how you feel, but that's how it is, and I'll see you later, bye bye, and that was it. And I'd obviously upset her. I had ruined the interview with the BBC because I stood behind her all the time they was, you know, filming. This was her debut to the public, you know. I've done such a great job and I ruined it by standing behind her, whispering in her ear, you haven't done this, you haven't done that, investigation, you know, and it just ruined the whole thing anyway. So it never got made, it never got published, that interview with the chief of police. And in return, I suspect, the chief of police then made a couple of calls and had me visited by the police the very next day, on my birthday, to take me down the cells and teach me a lesson. And that's what it did. And the video will prove all of that as well. The video I have of the police smashing in my door when I'm supposed to be burgling my own house after identifying myself to them time and time again. It was 2016, I'd come back from the Leeds court case, got back to Darlington, and it was the day before my birthday, as it was the 19th, the hearing was. So I went out, had a couple of beers, and about 10, 11 o'clock I thought, right, I want to go home, because my birthday starts at 12 o'clock tonight. I'm going to go home, get a nice meal down my throat, and just sit and reflect on my life and reflect on what's going on with the court cases over the last, you know, few months, and that's what I did.
And it was just before Christmas?
5 days before Christmas. My birthday's on the 20th of December, so yeah, 5 days before Christmas. And bang on sort of 12 o'clock, 5 past 12, bang, bang, bang on the door. The police at my door. saying, "Can you open the door please?" Because I knew it was the police and how sceptical I am with the police, and no, I can't, what do you want? They were basically saying that the house was getting burgled. There was a report that the front window was broken and that someone had climbed in and there was a burglary in progress. Now, from there I identified myself to them. I was at the top window when they first came. I had no curtains or anything. They were shining a torch up. They could clearly see who I was. I've got, you know, tattoos on my face now. You can't distinct me for anybody else but me. Then I came down the stairs and said, "Look, why are you here? What are you doing? Why do you want in the house? I'm not burgling the house." Eventually, I was a bit drunk, so I held back on giving me name and date of birth at first, but then I did. And then I did again. And then they proceeded to smash my door down anyway. For burgling the house. They didn't radio my name in. They wouldn't acknowledge that it was me that lived in the house. And yeah, they smashed the way in. They weren't taking no for an answer. They was coming in no matter what. Tried barricading the door. I put my head up against the door and found that my head was against the door, and they carried on smashing the way in. Well, the police, when I told them who I was, they didn't radio it through. The second time they asked me, the second time I gave my date of birth as well, they still didn't radio it through. They carried on. They just carried on blatantly smashing me the way through the house without doing any checks at all, even though I'd identified myself to them. Yeah, well, the recording we've got, they're smashed the way in. As they're smashing the way in, they're threatening me with a taser. They're screaming and shouting at me, "Look at your leg, look at your leg," because my legs were covered in blood. My hands were bleeding and my face was bleeding from shatters of glass that had come from the door. They were shouting taser, taser, taser. They ended up coming in, and then once I'd been taken away, they tried to find my camera, couldn't find that. The camera carried on recording. They referred to it all being, oh, it's a bit of fun. The radio went off then, and they said, they reported it in as the radio, yes, 1 detained, no injuries sustained. Clearly caught all that on camera, after he screamed and bawled at me about my legs being lathered in blood. He don't actually mention the word blood, but he's shouting at me, "Look at your legs, look at your legs." I'd like to see him on the stand saying, "Why was you shouting, look at your legs?" But anyway, it wasn't just my legs that was lathered in blood, it was my hands and my face as well. They took me down the station, and I was obviously kicking off a bit, shouting and bawling about, "Look, I've just been killed, I'm a victim of this and that, and please don't lock me up." I was pretty freaked out by it all. And you know, they took me down the cells anyway. And I remember being stood up against the wall, and that's all I remember until waking up in the morning, where my hands were cuffed behind my back. I was stripped down to my boxer shorts and a t-shirt, laid face down on the floor, not even on a mattress, on the floor. They took until around 12 o'clock or so, until they came and took the cuffs off and gave me my clothes back. And then it was 6 o'clock in the evening when they decided to start interviewing me and shit. They refused for me to see a doctor so I could get my injuries on record. But what the police didn't know is that I was under the mental health. So my last card to make sure that my injuries were got on record was to tell them, inform them that, "Look, I'm under the mental health and I'm not prepared to do an interview until I've seen somebody from the mental health service." So they then had no choice but to call in somebody. And that person, I can't remember her name or anything, but that person anyway, she has said that she will go on record of what she saw. The discrepancy in when they released us to what's on my records of releasing me, because even though they reckon they released me at 6:15, which was the legal time they had to, they still kept me in there until 9:15.
Were you charged?
No, I wasn't charged with nothing. I was released with no charges at 8:45 at night on my birthday. So 3 hours left to celebrate my birthday. Thank you very much, police. And yeah, I was released with no charges, and I believe that this was a result of what happened in Leeds Crown Court with the Chief of Police there the day before I was attacked by the police in my own hand. What I really want to see out of all of this, with the videos that we're making and the footage I'm making, is transparency as to how the police have been dealing and still dealing with it, and how the corruption is involved within the police force, how the solicitors themselves are corrupt, how they're lying, how they are making so much money out of our misery, untold amounts of money out of our misery. And the fact that the system itself, as in the courts, the judicial system, has completely let us down as well. I mean, even with the compensation claims, how they're in a criminal court, I don't know. They should be in a civil court. They all should be. It's outrageous. And because it's in a criminal court, they've got more reason to collapse the cases. They've got more ammunition, they've got more weapons.
There you go, YouTube. So, there you go. That's what it's all about, and there's absolutely shitloads more to hear. There's plenty to hear about, you know, what I've got on videos of solicitors and how bent they are, how they contradict themselves, same with the police. And I'm going to point out a few things about the judicial system as well, and how that's failed us too. Anyway, over and out, YouTube. This is life.